Jeff Sessions had no choice but to recuse himself when the campaign became subject of an investigation, because he was part of the campaign.
Paul Manafort ought to be jailed. Most likely, I think, should face serious criminal penalties for witness tampering, potentially suborning perjury.
If Paul didn't follow the rules when he was lobbying overseas and didn't disclose that, then he's responsible for that. And if he has been trying to get people to falsify information, then he's responsible for that also.
Here's the question for Rosenstein. If you're going to be a fact witness as to why Comey was fired, how do you stay involved?
A lot of developments on the Hill today about the Russia investigation. Paul Manafort, the Mueller folks looking at possible witness tampering as he communicates with associates. And then Peter Strzok with the FBI said to have more of a role in all of this. Meanwhile, the president tweeting this morning, the Russian witch hunt hoax continues, all because Jeff Sessions didn't tell me he was going to recuse himself. I would have quickly picked someone else. So much time and money wasted, so many lives ruined, and Sessions knew better than most that there was no collusion. He writes again, what is taking so long with the Inspector General's report on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey? Numerous delays. Hope report is not being changed and made weaker. There are so many horrible things to tell. The public has the right to know. Transparency! Exclamation point. With that, let's bring in our panel. Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist. Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio. And Tom Rogan, commentary writer for The Washington Examiner. Molly, a lot of developments today. Where do you think we stand on all of this?
Well, I think we are all very anxious for this Inspector General report, in part because we were told it would come out in January, then March, April, May, June. Now we're in June, and we're kind of waiting to hear about it. I think people should have appropriate levels of expectation about what will be in this Inspector General report. Obviously, it's taking longer because they're finding more that they need to cover, and I'm sure there will be a lot of salacious and interesting details, as were already revealed with regard to Andrew McCabe when they detailed just one instance of him leaking to the media and all the lying under oath he did as it relates to that. That was the number 2 at the FBI. But I think people should also be aware that the Inspector General cannot compel testimony from anyone outside the agency. Many people involved in these probes have left, either by being fired or otherwise leaving. And so it's important that we do have other independent people able to investigate, such as Congress, which is an agency that has subpoenaed information from the Department of Justice and been stonewalled quite a bit over the course of this investigation.
And Mara, the IG deals with the Clinton email investigation, right, but now has been expanded to the beginning of the Trump-Russia probe.
Right, so he's going to be looking at all of those things. One thing that struck me about today was, of course, Donald Trump once again kind of torturing his attorney general, saying if I'd only known he was going to recuse himself, I would have picked someone else and we never would have had this investigation. But Jeff Sessions still has a lot of support, especially in the Senate. He was a senator, and you heard Lindsey Graham say he had to recuse himself. And I have heard that this Senate leadership has communicated with the White House that they would be unlikely to confirm any other attorney general if Donald Trump did go ahead and fire Jeff Sessions. So Jeff Sessions still kind of being hung out to dry by the president, but maintaining a lot of support among his past colleagues.
You know, Tom, the Manafort legal team pushing back, saying they're going to fight all of this in court, but we're hearing, you know, reports that there is a witness tampering allegation that the Mueller folks are making, that communication early on that Manafort may have had with associates. How do you look at that and in the big picture of what we don't know about the Mueller probe?
Well, I think evidently Paul Manafort has growing problems. The mind boggles as to why he would engage in this activity if indeed he did, in the sense that it's not that hard to get inside these kind of communications. But I think more broadly, you see on the part of the president this effort to bring the Mueller investigation, anything related to collusion, into the public sphere and the political sphere, where the president, I think, quite confidently believes he can win that debate and push Mueller out. I think in referencing Attorney General Jeff Sessions again, that is, as Molly suggests, in reference to the upcoming Horowitz report, the IG at DOJ, which I think the administration will use as to weaponize that angle again in the political sphere, get rid of the Mueller investigation. Something to look for, though, I think in the coming weeks is the name Felix Sater. I think he will be coming out quite prominently in relation to Mueller, and that will, the Mueller people think, strengthen their case to continue the collusion thing. But I think this is coming to a head.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, that's how it feels, but we don't know what we don't know, like I always say on these panels. Let's turn, as speaking of Sessions, the Attorney General speaking about the whole allegation and the charge of family separation when it comes to immigration and efforts along the border.
The law requires us to keep children in a different facility than we require and than we do for adults. And every time somebody here gets prosecuted in America for a crime, American citizens, and they go to jail, they're separated from their children. And we don't want to do this at all. If people don't want to be separated from their children, they should not bring them with them.
The president tweeting also this morning, separating families at the border is the fault of bad legislation passed by the Democrats. Border security laws should be changed, but the Dems can't get their act together, started the wall. Molly, don't know if that's 100% in line with what we know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And also, but the fact remains that if Congress wants to change the laws, they should do it. I think there's a bigger issue at play here, which is just that we have two competing ideas about what it means to be a country. You either have borders and laws that enforce those borders, and in fact, that is what it means to be a country, or you don't. And if you do have borders and if you do have laws to enforce those borders, that doesn't mean that anyone who wants to come in gets to come in under any circumstances. There are very difficult situations involving people who are fleeing countries and seeking refugee status. It doesn't mean that it's automatically granted or automatically qualified. And we really should stop talking about these sort of like extreme situations and deal with the really fundamental issue of our immigration policy, whether it meets this country's needs and whether it is satisfying what the American people want. They're not getting a lot of good discussions at the congressional level.
But boy, Mara, there's not a sense that Congress is moving quickly or at all on immigration.
No, but what's so confusing is you've got Jeff Sessions stating the administration's policy, which is we're going to separate families from their children. It's meant to be a deterrent. Just like you heard the Attorney General say, if you don't want to be separated from your kids, don't come here. And then you have Donald Trump. Instead of supporting the policy of the administration, which is meant to be a deterrent, he's somehow blaming this on Democrats when Republicans control both houses of Congress. It's pretty confusing. I think that he feels sensitive about the criticism that the administration has gotten for separating kids and families. But the policy, which the DOJ spokesman told NPR today has been in place for 1 month, was meant to be a deterrent.